It's the interview series. The interview series. It's the interview series. The interview series. It's the interview series. The interview series.
Welcome to another episode of the interview series. Excited to talk to Kelly Chavers out of Tallahassee, right?
Yes, excited to be here, man. Thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah, thanks for accepting the invitation, man. But yeah, man, two agents, one in California, which is me, right, Windsor, California, Sonoma County, and then Tallahassee. So really looking to, I reached out to you because I told you I wanted to kind of reach out to multiple agents throughout the nation, and really find out what's going on out in particular states and cities, because I have investment clients that, are looking to potentially expand and expound on their already set real estate portfolio. And so, what better way of learning about the nation than to talk to the nation's experts, right? And obviously you're one of them. So I'm excited to kind of get just a context of, how the market is out there in Tallahassee. But before we do that, right, I don't know you, you don't know me, man. So
Yeah.
let's get to know who Kelly is, and let's get some background behind you and who you are before the real estate, why you chose real estate, and just a little bit more about you, man. So take it away.
Yeah, so thank you so much again. So I'm born and raised in Tallahassee. I do travel. I get out there every once in a while, right? But I live in Midtown, which is pretty much center of Tallahassee. So I'm like a mile away from the hospital I was born in.
Oh, wow.
Um, and grew up being an open house baby. My dad has been a broker for like 40 years now. He just retired, and then next thing I know, he's like, so I'm thinking about doing some more international stuff. I'm like, all right, yeah, you can't stop. Because it's like once you have all that knowledge, you're just like, well, I finally got to the point where I know most about this business.
Yeah,
Because and we're always in that striving for that, and learning more about our craft.
100%.
Um, but yeah, decide I again grew up, did a lot of hospitality, worked in a lot of bars, restaurants, and managed everything from small little little boutique restaurants and bars to all the way to college campuses, dining facilities. And then, man, the grind in hospitality just it was rough. I mean, I work a lot now, and I don't work as much as I did then. So
Wow.
that was, one of the things that I was looking to get into, something else, and especially something that was more of, you know, a meritocracy, where it's like as much work as you put in, you're gonna yield that back out of it. And I feel like you can really do that in this business. And I know I'm proof of it because I've grown from doing, it's like the first 6 months of this business, I didn't sell a thing. And then the last couple of years, it's 50, 60, 70 houses. So there's definitely a way to sit there and continue to grow and do better. So that was always you know one of the big things that attracted me to the business, and one of the big things that keeps me here. I was so I started off actually working for my dad. My
Nice.
wife and I had transferred up to Atlanta. She was in charge of all the dining at Spelman College, and I was in charge of the dining at Oglethorpe University. So we were just going to different spots in Atlanta because we had moved up there for about a year and a half, and then got out of it, started doing real estate up there, working for my dad, not knowing where to start, lots of agents there. And I tell agents, especially newer agents, all the time, the great thing about real estate is that, everybody's written a book on how to be successful in real estate. and nobody does any of the things in those books.
Right.
So I started doing that, and I started cold calling, I started door knocking, I started, FISBOs and expires and all that kind of stuff, and that's how I kind of cut my teeth on it. And then, once I started developing clientele, then the referrals just come rolling in. And so then I was we moved back to Tallahassee. I was with Coldwell Banker here in town for 8 years, and they're fantastic. And then it got to the point where, I had already kind of developed a brand and a idea of, what I wanted to do with this business. And so went off and started my own company, really with my wife, who, at that point, she had gotten her real estate license and had become my assistant.
Oh, nice.
Uh, and then when we started the company, now she's basically my boss. So she
At home
runs,
and work, right?
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, no, and it's always comical because I'll have, all different vendors and people that I'll call and go, yeah, we're interested in seeing if we could partner with your company. I was like, yeah, you need to talk to Anna. She runs the show here. I
Yeah,
get out and meet with clients and work through all the transactions and everything, and she's running everything in the back. And at this point now, we do have one other agent that's working with us. We also have a virtual assistant, there's social media. We have a photographer that I because doing all the photography that and the whole marketing package that we offer was so robust. It was one of those things where it was super expensive. And so I trained myself how to do all the photography, got my drone pilot's license, started doing my own virtual tours, photos and videos. And finally I just trained another photographer to basically, it's like he knew how to hit the button, where
yeah,
it always is.
yeah,
But then just kind of showed him some of the things that are more particular to real estate, got him up and running. So now, we're able to really offer, the floor plans and the virtual tours and the drone and the video and everything else on every single one of our listings. And that's what makes, my company, Hum Real Estate, really stand out at the crowd, is being able to give that kind of a package to every single property that we list, regardless of the price point. Because you'd see some of the luxury properties that they would get all that love and attention, but then any of the more moderately priced homes, you're people are going in and taking pictures with their flip phone
yeah,
with their finger in the screen.
yeah.
So
And then
uh
their reflection in the mirror in the background.
for sure. Absolutely. Oh, I feel like being able to sit there and angle things just the right way,
Yeah,
like so that you have a wall of mirrors and somehow they manage not to catch you. And I feel like a magician. It's like, look, I took a picture like a ninja.
yeah, exactly,
Uh
exactly.
and that's been one of the big things that I think has really led to our consumable growth, and why we keep on getting more and more business and more market share, is being able to really provide that value. And then also just being trying to absorb as much as you can from all of the vendors and everything that we work with, be that inspectors and insurance agents and lenders and things like that.
Yeah,
Because then, you're also an expert on the buy side of things and can really help and advise and, lead people to the best sources for the information,
yeah,
so that we can keep on, making it folks understand what our value is as agents, right? Because
yeah,
of course, with the news and everything right now, that's
Yeah,
a big deal
for sure.
with but yeah, so that's bit about me and philosophy and things like that. But yeah, how about you? Like, what's your kind of backstory?
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like almost every episode might ask me that, so the audience might get
Yeah,
tired, but they can fast forward. No, just to give you some context about me. Well, I'm curious, how long have you been in real estate before I go into that?
yeah. So this will be 11 years.
Okay, 11 years. Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll reverse engineer it. I guess it's not technically. Anyways, I'll
2013.
start with the end and then I'll go
Yeah,
back to the beginning.
cool.
So yeah, I've only been in real estate for 2 years. Uh, October 2021 is when I first got in real estate. And prior to that, I was with AT&T for 11 years, corporate America. Had six different positions and promotions within 11 years, making good money, six figures, the go-to guy. In the midst of that, I was doing some real estate investing on the side, right? Had some, investment properties, short-term rentals, long-term rentals. And then I was like, man, I was working on 100-hour work weeks, right? So I was like, if I put 100 hours a week into my own business, I mean, something's got to come out of that in the next 10 to 20 years. And so, it was April of, I remember April, I remember the date, but it was a Monday in April. And I told my boss, and I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but I told him, he was talking to me about one of my bottom performers on my team, right? Because I was a performance-based manager. And I was like, you know what, boss? I was like, I'm done. I'm out. Right, I'm done. He's like, what? For the day? All right, call me tomorrow. I was like, no, I'm done. AT&T, it's a wrap. I'm done. And so I just quit. I hadn't taken the real estate test yet. I didn't know which brokerage I was going to go to, but I knew I wanted to kind of go in that direction and really work for myself and put those hours into my craft and my business. And I feel like you got to go all in. And so essentially, I burned the ships, burned the boats, so to speak. And really the rest is history from that, right? I took the test, passed obviously, and so 2 years, and I actually had a listing within my first month. Uh, Seller died, ended up going to probate. So within the first month and a half of my business, I learned about probate, and so I really hit the ground running. And I had some referrals, and so I was doing pretty well. And that's kind of the last, would say, 13 years, right? Prior to that, I went to school out here called Sonoma State. Got a basketball scholarship to Sonoma State. So my goal was to make it to the NBA. Didn't quite make it. So I got a basketball scholarship out of it. Majored in business. So I have a background in performing and just high level thinking as it relates to just being the best version of yourself. It's funny because when you first start getting into real estate, people are like, oh, well, be careful, make sure you have a backup plan, because the percentage of people that make it is very low. I'm like, I mean, you obviously didn't know me as a kid. I was trying to make it to the NBA. I'm pretty sure I have a better chance of making it as a realtor than I do as big making it to the NBA. And so I kind of always tell myself that, when it
Yeah,
comes to like planning and not thinking about anybody else, but am I doing the right things to be the best version of myself in the craft that I chose, right? And so I didn't make it to the NBA, but you shoot for the moon, you hit the stars, or whatever the saying is. And so I played college basketball. Only 2% of high school athletes get paid to make it to college and get any type of money for that, right? So the percentages have always been out the door for me, and I just really focus on. I keep the main thing the main thing, and
yeah.
here I am, man. And now I'm thinking about. I was literally in a training. The newer agents get invited to random trainings. You're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
sure, I'll go. So I went to a random training. It was a social media training, and these women were up on stage, and they were talking about just getting content out there. Really, your audience needs to see you, which is what we're doing right here, right? And then I was thinking, and that's where the concept of my podcast that I would say is in its early stages, right? But that's where my idea came from. So I started listening to these women about their ideas, and they weren't doing podcasts, but they were doing video, and they were just essentially saying that they were doing things that they were doing it the way they wanted to do it, what made them feel comfortable. right? And then I was like, well, what would make me feel comfortable on camera and where it's like my authentic self, where I'm adding value to whoever chooses to watch. And so then that's where I came up with the interview series. I'll just interview random professionals and, and then see where it takes me. And so, still in its infancy, right? I don't expect to be competing with Joe Rogan at all, but I do want to make sure I get some value out of it as well, which is, talking to agents like yourself. And again, the first 10 episodes I was telling you before we hopped on here is the first 10 episodes that are already out. I've interviewed a health coach, commercial real estate lenders, regular lenders, mortgage brokers, CPAs, financial advisors, escrow officers. And so those episodes are already out. And, I learned a lot from just the production value and what I need to do, how I just what you should ask, how can you be not? So I learned a lot from that. And then anyways, like I said, I had ruptured my Achilles, and fast forward here, I'm in 9 months later. This week, you're the fourth episode that I've done this week. It'll come out within the next probably few weeks. But yeah, man. So I know I'm giving you the long version of that and probably
No,
exhausting the
that's all
audience
great.
that are listening, but that's where I'm at.
I mean, and I feel like, some of the more successful agents in this business all have, you know, it's like you have to have some kind of drive like that.
Mhm.
Like you say that, aim for the NBA. I mean, I played in bands for, the past 25 years. Played, I played guitar and piano and bass
Nice.
and everything. And, I've tried same with it, you know, I don't know, you probably, I think your, sport was a little more competitive, but still, it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, I went off and went on tour before I went to college and,
Wow.
played in all these groups and went and recorded albums and did all this stuff. And then, it's one of those things where I feel like that kind of grind and drive to meet a goal kind of gives you a different outlook on things and personality. Because then when you get into a business like this, my one of my mantras is like, basically I wake up every day unemployed
Oh man.
because
Literally
it's
say that
true.
all the time. I say that every day. I say
Yeah.
that all the time.
I go every day I wake up unemployed. Every day I wake up and I realize that I have to get out there and hustle and deliver, the best version of myself in my business and the help that I can give to my clients to be able to make sure that, I'm going to eat and that my family's going to eat because, that's a nice thing to do. Uh,
I love it.
So, that's really awesome that, yeah, you know, you kind of get to that point where it's, yeah, with that I feel like agents have this, people have this idea of real estate agents and what we do on a regular basis. And, because if you watch HGTV or one of these other shows, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we just sit around with, 3 martini lunches and vacations, and we sit around and just, have coffee. What was it? There was a South Park episode. It's like, all you have to do is dress nice and hug people.
And hug people.
I'm gonna make millions. Yeah, you
I
just dress nice and hug people.
love it.
It's like, well, sure, but there's a little more to it.
Yeah, and I think the
Um,
last year and a half or so, I've only been here 2 years, right? But I told you I've been investing since I didn't say when, I've since 2017. So I've been kind of keep my ear to, the real estate piece. And so, but the last really 2 years, year and a half has been people crept in when the interest rates were low. So it was kind of easy for both lenders and for agents. You show up, people want to buy, interest rates at 2-3%. Now we're gonna find out who the real professionals are, right? Who's going to stick? Because people did try to dip their toe in it and say that it's just easy. All you have to do is show up. And for the most part, you kind of did, right? But now when it's 7, 8%, 6.5%, it's a little bit different, right? And so also, I always look at it and I can tell you are the same way. I look at it, I project it out 20 years. I mean, this is the long haul. I'm not trying to do this for the next year or two. I'm trying to do this for the next, I don't want to retire actually. I just want to keep working, and whatever that aspect looks like when I get older, I'm sure it'll change. But I guess that's the way I'm looking at it. And so you gotta have
Yeah.
you have to kind of like you gotta ride the wave, right?
Well, because I don't know about your market, but like, just in 2023, like in our local market, we had a 20-30% drop in sales.
Oh wow.
So for the same reason you're saying, yeah, between 2020, 2021, 2022, where, you can just go, yeah, I can, you wanted that house? I can sell you that house. All right, just write it up. Yeah, you got it. Okay. There you go.
Done and done.
Uh,
Mhm.
then it got to a point where, you start seeing, especially this year, the cream starts rising to the top.
Yeah.
The market share starts to shift to the agents that are able to really deliver. And, some of these cats that just jumped in because, they got, I mean, a lot of them were like me, where it's like, oh man, I'm tired of waiting tables.
Mhm.
Especially, during the pandemic and stuff like that, there was a huge exodus from hospitality into, and I think how to become a real estate agent was like one of the top Google searches in the world at the time. But again, then you're starting to see the separation, especially when the market starts to shift and change. I mean, that's like, with interest rates going up to 8%, there were a lot of people that didn't know what to do, didn't know how to handle it, didn't know how to advise, their folks. And now that it's starting to come down a little bit. We're starting to see things pick back up, but I don't know about you. I'm seeing a similar trend to what we saw between the summer of 22 and the first quarter of 23, as am with this third quarter of 24 or 23 and this first quarter of 24, where it's basically like June of 2022, interest rates jumped 1% overnight,
Mhm.
and everybody clutched their pearls and goes, "Oh my God, we're at 5.5%. We will never be able to afford anything." And I get it; it is a significant jump, and it did make a difference for a lot of people. So I'm not downplaying that, but as a historically, 5.5% ain't bad.
Yes, sir.
And then, you know, so that was in June. And then when they started to realize that's how things are and that home prices aren't going to come crashing down, the first quarter of 23, January, February, March, were bananas because everybody that said, we're going to wait till next year, they all jumped back in the market at the same time. And now we're seeing the same trend where, rates went up to 8%, and everybody goes, this is gonna just fall apart.
Mhm.
'Cause I don't know what they're reading or who they're listening to, but no,
Right.
not really. The and now, already I pretty much said, wait for it, my phone's gonna explode just after the new year. And sure enough, the first couple weeks of January already, all the mortgage applications are up. I'm getting listing calls left and right. I had, listing appointment today, listing appointment tomorrow, listing appointment on Monday. So it's
Yeah.
gonna all be coming back around. And, with this swing, especially with interest rates going from 8 down to about 6.5, I think we had a slight tick up, but
Yes.
that's around a range that I feel like is going to be been very beneficial for the market this year. And I feel like we'll end up seeing that trend throughout the rest of the year. I mean, you know, I'm sure you get the question too. It's like, when are rates coming down? It's like,
Like June
like
15th. I have no idea.
yeah,
Okay.
Exactly. It's like Jerome Powell doesn't know that,
Yeah,
Fed doesn't know. They're supposed to be the closest thing to a crystal ball.
yeah,
I can tell you that, 6 months ago, they expected rates to, as of now, to be much higher,
mhm,
like about 0.5% higher at least.
yeah, for sure.
And so there's, hope on the horizon for that as far as affordability.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and also in our local market, we've seen, an extension to some of the days on market because of those rates and because, we had, a lot of buyers decide to hold on tight to see what happened here in this last quarter. Um, and I'm sure we're going to see that trend downwards again. But, here we've seen that dip pretty much consistently where it, yeah, we'll have the inventory that's left over from our, winter selling it where, or end of the year really. And then it'll start to dive around, March and will stay low pretty much until September, October,
yeah,
and it'll only slightly tick up. So yeah, we went from like 3 months worth of inventory last year in January down to about a month or less in some of the areas around town. And then it ticked back up to about 3 months worth of inventory and it has kind of held steady there, but I'm sure we're going to see that dive down as all the buyers start jumping back in this year.
yeah. I was gonna ask about your inventory because I know here in California we have a low supply and a projected low supply. As you know, over the next 10, 15 years, we don't have anything in the plans or in the works to make up for that gap. So it's just simple supply and demand right now.
Yeah.
And so I think from an agent perspective, where do you find your business, but then also who do you find to help? And it's, you're not gonna, I mean, yeah, new construction, yeah, but like it's not fast enough for the demand. So is it very similar out there with you guys as it relates to the inventory? Or do you
Oh
guys
yeah.
have plans for it in the future versus what we do, where we have zero plans on any extra inventory, but what's like that in Tallahassee?
I mean, the nation overall, there are very skewed projections on how short on inventory we are overall.
Hmm.
Uh, they felt like for 6 months worth of inventory, as far as an absorption rate, if homes kept selling at the rate that they're selling now and no new homes came on the market, how long would it take for us to sell out of that current inventory? We really use that absorption rate figure as kind of a gauge of our inventory. And that's where I said, 3 months to a month, and we've even had it as low as, a couple weeks, which meant
Wow,
if no new homes are going to come on the market, we'll run out of everything that we have to sell in 2 weeks.
wow.
So, uh, you know, the nation as a whole, they think that it's anywhere between 3 and 5 million units short.
It's a big,
So
it's a big swing. I mean,
it's a big swing, but it doesn't really matter because
yeah,
I mean that was like when everybody went into forbearance. Well, not everybody, but when there were a lot of folks that opted for the forbearance program during the pandemic to be able to avoid foreclosure on their homes.
yeah.
uh, you know, that was a good program because it really did help out a lot of people who needed it. Well, most all of those folks ended up being able to catch up on their payments or work out different ways of, adding the missed payments to the end of their loan so that they could keep their homes. And some of them that didn't had too much equity in their home. It's
Hmm.
one of those things where it's over half the people in the US right now have their homes paid off. So
Wow.
it's like, you know, everybody that was predicting that there would be some crash or some boon of foreclosures after that forbearance program ended were sorely disappointed because our local market still had less than 1% of our inventory being foreclosures or distressed properties.
Yeah.
And because again, that gap between, it's like, yeah, we have a lot of homes that are in forbearance, but we don't have 3 to 5 million homes that
Sure.
are in,
Not even
you
close.
know, and the way that, how expensive that new homes have become, because it's not only the fact that materials are more expensive now, it's a fact that we don't have the labor, we don't have the skilled labor to be able to really produce homes at a rate that would make up the difference between what our current need is for inventory and, what they'd be able to produce.
Yeah.
So even if builders built at twice the rate that they're building right now, it would still take 5 to 10 years for them to catch up with the inventory that we have. So we're in this for the long haul of having limited inventory and having too few homes where, the folks that think that there's any kind of a bubble, I'm just not reading the same metrics. And what I'm seeing, it's like, no, 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 this is a housing crisis because there aren't enough affordable homes. And there doesn't appear to be any solution on the horizon to actually alleviate that issue. And that's why, I mean, if you look at some of the spending bills that have come down, there's more allocated towards affordable housing each year over year, and it's still not enough. Because it's like our average price point here is $380,000, where I have most people that are calling me, they go, yeah, I can afford a house up to like 150, 200. So, you know, there being that much of a disparity and gap between what, most folks can afford and what's available is going to just continue to be an issue that we're going to have to work with. And, that's why I know I'm sure you're just like me, where, we're constantly talking to our lenders and going, how can we get these folks into homes? Because, even though the price of homes keeps going up and up and up, the price of rent is going up even faster.
It's true.
We're at, 5% easy year over year, easily 5% year over year. Your mortgage payment does not go up 5% year over year. Even if even in Florida, we have, dude, the insurance game here is bananas. Like, it is gotten so difficult for insurance. We basically have a statewide insurance company called Citizens, and that's what it just keeps growing every year because it's one of the only companies that'll insure folks, especially in older homes.
Yeah.
Um, or just homes that need a little bit of work, and even with that, all those rates are just going up and up and up. Like, a lot of rates in Florida for insurance went up 50% in a year. But that's still one of those things where, well, now our rentals, those are all going to go up in kind because the owners of those properties are going to pass on that expense to their tenants.
Yeah.
And so we were seeing, again, historically, it's about 5% year over year that rental rates go up. We've seen 13, 14, 15% pretty easy. And our market is one of the more affordable markets in Florida.
Yeah.
Some of them down in like South Florida, they're doubling.
Wow.
And it's one of the reasons why, we're, in centralized North Florida, right at the kind of bend. That's why we call it the Big Bend area,
Yeah.
because that's where Florida comes up and, swings over to the west.
Yeah.
And, uh, you know, we're having folks from, all down South Florida that are starting to move up into this area because, our houses are more affordable. There's less of a chance of, flooding or high wind areas here than because we're a little bit more inland. And then at the same time, we have a lot of people that are moving down from, up north on the both a lot of the Midwest and East Coast for the most part.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so we're continuing to see those factors kind of push our the cost of homes and keep our inventory overall pretty depressed. Tallahassee is also a pretty transient town, so we only have about 200,000 residents most of the time, but we have a transient population of almost another 100,000 because we have Florida State University, we have FAMU, Florida A&M University, which is another great school. We have Tallahassee Community College. And we have the government here because we are the capital of Florida. Nobody gets that question right on Jeopardy, by the way. Every time they miss it, they say like Orlando or Miami, which is fine. But
love it.
but because we have, all the legislators flying in and out, because we have so many students that are moving in and out, it does help our inventory turnover a bit. But at the same time, they've built so many apartments and things like that for the students that um it's still one of those things where we still have a lot of that population that's moving in and out and investing in properties in the area.
Yeah, yeah. Really, I mean, it's simple supply and demand, right? So it's very similar to what it's like out here. I mean, if it's low supply, it's always going to be high demand, right? Um, what's the, I have a few questions actually. What's like the average? I guess I could Google this, but I'm not going to because I have you.
Yeah.
What's the average roughly? I won't hold you to it exactly, but what's the average rent out there in Tallahassee right now?
Um,
I know it depends on the size of the home and whatnot, but
yeah, usually you're looking at like $600 a bedroom. And
right,
that's like kind of on the lower end of most things. So, the for an apartment, if you're trying to get an apartment, they're anywhere between for like a 1 or 2 bedroom. 1 bedroom places are usually 8, 9, $1,000 a month. 2 bedrooms, you're usually looking about 1,400 to 1,800 a month. 3 bedroom places, you're looking, more closer to 17 to 18 up to, and it kind of goes up from there.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would say, average for, just a basic apartment or townhouse is probably, around 1,400 to 1,500.
Right on.
So that's a difficult swing if, it's one person trying to be able to afford an apartment or something. And um, we're hoping that the increase in the number of available rentals in the area is going to alleviate that a bit.
Yeah.
But for especially for single family homes, because everybody wants a yard, because everybody wants a dog. So that those prices are just continuing to go up exponentially over the cost of some of the apartment living in townhomes as well.
And you'd say like a 3 bedroom on average would be roughly around 380 to 400, you think, out there, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, you can find homes that are a little bit less, but that's our average price point right now.
Right.
And because like this some of the least expensive new construction here is about $325,000 for a 1,200 square foot 3 bedroom 2 bath with no garage and no lot. It's like 0.05 of an acre.
Wow.
Um, so those are about what you're looking at. Most of the new construction is, 450,000 plus. And uh, again, they're not really building any affordable homes.
Yeah, yeah. What's the rental market like out there? Do you guys have long
It's
term, short term? Do you guys do like midterm rentals for like traveling nurses? Like, what's the rental market like?
yeah. So it often depends on the area. Areas around campus typically tend to be more long term. Areas in some of the more popular nightlife areas and things like that. Like I'm in Midtown, which is basically dead center of Tallahassee. There are a lot more folks that are trying to do Airbnbs in this area because it's just very convenient to get to everything. And in the downtown area. But I would say for the most part, we have more long-term rentals than anything else. The short-term rentals are typically geared more towards folks that are, we do have a lot of traveling nurses because Tallahassee Memorial Hospital is just down the road, and then we have another large hospital that is actually only another like mile or two away from that. Um, and those, if they're doing, furnished rentals that are for, 3, 6 month 9 month kind of spans. Usually, that rental cost goes up for furnished and goes up if it's anything less than a year. Because of course, you have to pay sales tax on anything under a year here for if you're renting it out for less than a 12-month span.
I'm always looking to up my real estate portfolio, so I'm always asking for myself
Yeah,
and any other clients that are looking to kind of go out of state with theirs too. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and we do have a pretty decent inventory as far as like townhomes. And those are typically really great for rentals for traveling nurses and students and young professionals and stuff, and or even retirees that we have that are coming into the area. Because we do have all those snowbirds that want to come down to the warmer climate, and if they can find something that's 1 story or and somewhat affordable, and they'll usually rent it out, and sometimes for extended periods as well.
yeah. What are the typical HOAs that are associated with the townhomes? Do you guys have?
They're not bad here. So more of the HOAs that are in this area, they're mostly just in place to be able to do the ground maintenance or do the common areas and things like that. So we see a lot of HOA fees there, a couple $100 a year. Yeah. So on, your condos, those are going to be much more because, of course, that includes like your master insurance policy for the building insurance, plus ground maintenance, plus reserves, and everything else that you have. Um, but at the same time, they're usually run where it kind of almost shakes out pretty evenly between the fees from a condo association or an HOA for a townhome, because it's like, okay, well, you're paying somebody to mow your lawn. Well, yeah, it's like, okay, so that's 50 to $100 a month, and then you're paying for your home insurance. Yeah, okay, well, that's $1,000 a year, and then you're paying for pest, or a termite bond, and then you're paying for all these items. And by the time you add up all those and you add up what your dues are, sometimes they're able to bargain more on volume for the HOA as opposed to you doing it all by yourself, and so they kind of shake out.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. Um, I appreciate it, man. I'm trying to think if I have anything else for you. Anything else that you have that you want to share?
Um, I mean, I think that it's like I said, it's definitely going to be a very interesting market and interesting year, because we're just not sure where we're gonna end up, particularly on rates and everything. Um, I think that, with the direction that we've been heading in for housing affordability is at a 40-year low. Um, and it's even one of those things where I think that, like, our local municipality is looking at improving the ability and availability of ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, to be able to kind of increase density here in town. And I think that that's one of the things that we have to really take a hard look at, almost everywhere, where it's going to be one of the solutions to be able to provide people housing is going to be an increased density, and having to really assess this idea of wide open spaces. And, well, yeah, not everybody's going to be able to have a yard because some people just need a place to live.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm gonna be interested to see how that starts to shake out with some different programs that are coming down to be able to provide more affordable housing to more people. Um, so yeah, I think that it's going to be a really interesting time in real estate. I don't think that this year is going to be much like last year or the year before, but the industry is definitely changing rapidly, and excited to see kind of where everything goes.
I know I'm still a rookie in the game, but I feel like every year it has a different feel to it.
There's a
Um,
new vibe
It's a
every
new
year.
vibe every year, right? So I think
Yeah,
you just got to adapt and be ready and stick to the basics and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I mean, I think we're here just to help people, right? So once you
for
establish
sure.
that relationship with someone, it's just easy, right? Just really care about the people you're serving, and I think the rest like takes care of itself. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's a great mantra to have for sure.
Yeah, and I love your mantra about what'd you say? You're unemployed every day. I say that all the time. I love the
Yeah.
feeling though. I love the feeling of it. I don't know what it is. It's a very like what's the safari lion hunting style of living, right? Where you wake up and you're
Oh
sleeping
yeah.
like a lion, and right, it might be corny, but like you wake up and you don't know what you're gonna eat until you go out there and kill it. And so I think that's kind of the same thing, and that's real life, right? And so, but then it's how you're gonna kill it, how you're gonna get it, and you know how that works. And so it's a very interesting business, um, very interesting lifestyle, chosen
Yeah.
lifestyle that we've selected. Um, but you mentioned your wife. I think you said Anna, right?
Yeah.
She's your assistant. That's awesome. That you guys so it's a family, essentially a family team, essentially, right? You
Oh
got
yeah.
one other agent. That's great. How long has she been doing it with you?
She's been a licensed realtor for 5 years,
Oh, okay.
and has been working with me for that long. So she mainly does kind of client care coordinator is, I guess, what we've kind of established more as a something that makes sense,
Yeah,
of the title. But at the same time, if I needed her to go and show a house, she can do that. If I needed her to draw up a contract, she can do that.
yeah.
And really being able to have that support has helped me, continue to improve, because, like, once you hit 20, 30 transactions, you need to have help. And and also, just to be able to deliver a high level of service to your clients, it's one of those things where, I can do it, all by myself, when, there's, because between inspections and appraisals and lenders and showings and everything else. Uh, but yeah, so she's really helped us develop the systems and the processes and upped our level on overall customer service to, a very high level. And that's really been incredible. And that's why, even when we brought on an agent, it was one of those things. It's like, okay, we got a new agent. We're gonna go hire another transaction coordinator, and we're
Mm,
gonna go hire some more people to help us in the background to be able to, facilitate again, just delivering high levels of service and being able to do everything and not, uh, you know, just kill ourselves as agents all the time.
yeah, yeah, of
Because
course.
otherwise that's the other side of the waking up unemployed every day is that you can definitely get into this and work yourself to death. Um and gotta take some vacation sometimes, of course, also because as soon as you go on vacation, everything sells, right?
That's exactly what happens. Yep, 1,000%.
I yeah. I just sorry, like, it doesn't even matter what time of the year it is. It's just go ahead and just schedule one like every like couple months. Just schedule yourself like a week to go somewhere, and that's the
Somebody wants
week
to talk
that
to you.
100%. That's the week that you will pick up, you know, 3 or 4 new buyers, and every listing that hasn't sold yet will sell.
Yeah,
And that's like, I'm about to go on vacation here, and I will have my computer and I will have my phone and everything else. And it's one of those things, it's like wake up in the morning, have coffee, do a little bit of work, and then before you go to bed, do a little bit of work. And so it
yeah,
keeps it steady, but at the same time, if you it one of the things that I was taught was when I was, started really producing was if you don't have an assistant, you are one. And that's, something to kind of think about when, at what point do you need that help and finding out which position you really need the most help in, which in my case is usually, okay, these are the things I don't like doing. And so I'm going to try to have somebody else do them. Or these are the things I'm not good at, so I'm going to hire somebody who is good at those items.
yeah,
And I feel like that's how you really kind of get to that next level.
yeah. No, it's refreshing to talk to you. I love it. I do have to ask. I mean, the audience
Yeah.
doesn't know this, but we're backed by the same broker, which is Side, which is awesome. So
Yeah.
shout out to Side. I am curious. Are you going to Side by Side next week?
No,
Oh, you're not
going
going.
on another vacation.
Oh, okay, there you go. Hey, I had to ask. I thought that's what you meant.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I'd love to.
yeah,
I want to get out there and it's been years since I've been to the West Coast. So I definitely need to make a trip. I'm gonna try to really set time aside. I'm definitely gonna go next year. And maybe even sooner.
yeah. I was gonna say there's always Side by Side next year. So I was just curious.
Yeah.
I do have a random question before I let you go. I meant to ask it, or I'm sure I didn't ask it, but is there any? So you said mentioned short-term rentals, Airbnbs. Is there any talks about getting rid of those in Florida? Those
Oh
expiring?
yeah.
Yeah, obviously. I was just curious if you could kind of share. I mean, I think I know, but I want it to be out of your mouth, right? Versus mine. So what's the verdict on short-term rentals and VRBOs and stuff like that out there in Florida?
So I mean, it's one of those things where, as a state, I feel like I don't think that they're going to really pass anything from what I've read and seen. There are municipalities that are moving towards doing that or moving towards further regulation of that. I think that, it's something that will likely become a bit more regulated overall in our industry, which, you know, depending on your experiences with Airbnbs, you may consider a good thing or a bad thing. Right? So I think that the biggest issue is, of course, with such low inventory, uh, both in the rental market and in the, overall housing market, eh, being regulating the Airbnbs is going to be a way of opening up that inventory to people who really need housing. And I think that, we're already seeing different municipalities more on the local level decide on that. And I feel like it's going to be more of a local decision than a kind of a statewide or nationwide decision. But again, I could be completely wrong, and they could pass legislation tomorrow on it. But I do think that the Airbnb, every time everybody thinks that Airbnb is going to crash, their stock prices go up because they end up having, less of a vacancy rate and making more money the next year. So it's going to be definitely something to watch. I don't see there being a great, just like with the forbearance programs and things like that. I don't see it being a great boon where or a windfall where you end up having, the entire short-term market bottom drop out anytime soon.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, how about y'all? Is it
It's a local thing, right? So it's a city, case by case, city by city thing. So incorporated versus unincorporated, it's a whole thing. But yeah. So where the city I'm in right now, I'm down to one short-term rental, and it's set to expire in June of 2025. So
mhm.
things can change locally, right? We'll have a new mayor, things can get passed. Um, but for now, essentially we gotta get rid of the short-term rental come June 2025. Always planning
Well,
on what to do with that. I mean, we can always, I'm
yeah,
thinking, because if you don't do short-term, we can do what we call midterm, right? Like I said earlier, travel nurses, and
yeah.
you're not making as much money on that front, but you still are making more than you would for a long-term rental, right?
Well,
So
that and corporate rentals, reaching out to like that's one of the things that we've seen in different markets where reaching out to corporations that side with like American Express or Concur and like reload companies and things like that, and provide corporate rentals for their incoming CEOs or partners or managers and things like that. uh a lot of times those rental rates are even higher than some of the traveling nurses or the Airbnb rates, for a month, 2 months, 3 months, things like that.
I'm gonna write
So
that down.
I think that's an avenue I know we're looking at, kind of exploring.
Corporate
And
rentals.
yeah, because I feel like it's a kind of an untapped market by most investors and folks that are already doing Airbnb or VRBO and all the short-term rentals. I know we've run the numbers on it. Yeah, Anna ran the numbers on it.
Of course.
And did a whole breakdown on, what the true costs are of doing the Airbnb and doing the short-term rentals. And if you look at doing, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 turns a month, if you're not doing those turns yourself,
Mhm.
it I mean, I'm sure you're seeing it. I know we're seeing it here. The cost to pay people to go in and basically turn over these units
Mhm.
and get them all cleaned and ready for the next person visiting, it'll eat your margins
Yeah, for
pretty
sure.
significantly. And so when we looked at it, the difference between not only the taxes and doing, the short-term rentals sales tax and the turns and everything else and the upkeep because then it's like you're paying for things that you wouldn't normally be paying with a long-term rental. Like with a long term, you're not paying for the person's internet typically, or you're not paying for the utilities typically. You're not paying for, all these different items, or, a maid service,
Right.
or, a cleaning company. So, when we looked at it, we went, the numbers aren't there. We may make, $500 more a month. We may also, get eaten alive by it, and it'll be a constant source of frustration.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
because, sometimes those short-term rental customers are going to be a little bit more needy because they don't know where anything is,
Yeah,
or they can't find it, or they broke something, or, you know, they're
yeah,
not used to the space.
yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate the breakdown, man, and I appreciate your time today. Um,
Absolutely.
I know I said one last thing last time, but one last thing I always ask this
Nice.
question.
Bring it. Yeah.
Here it goes. Last question. Maybe I should ask Anna this though as well, but what are your goals? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years?
Oh, we're looking at continuing to grow. We set ourselves on a slow growth path where, we at this point we have our systems and our processes in place. We have our training guides in place. We have all of the things that we need to be able to make that next jump. So we're gonna go hard on recruiting, and we're gonna grab a bunch of these folks that are looking for something to change, and looking for a little more consistency, and looking for a company that's going to give them more value for what they're getting, so that, and really invest in them. So that's the big thing, is recruiting, building our company, and making it so that it's a consistent and repeatable product. We're super happy with the support that we've gotten from Side on that, and all the resources that they've given us to be able to really do that. So yeah, that's the thing. Like, the last 2 years of owning our business has been, really woodshedding, and getting geared up and ready to make that next step and start the growth process. So that's a 5-year plan. I think that we're gonna, bring on a lot more agents here in town. I think that we'll probably expand to a few other areas in the state, and maybe up into Georgia, and go from there.
I look forward to watching it, man. I'm all about the growth, so I can get behind that, man. But
For
thank you
sure.
so much for your time, Kelly. I really didn't have to do this, man, so I really appreciate it. Appreciate
Oh
it.
no, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.